Welcome to Wilder Wolves. My name is Wilder Adams, and I got a very good friend of mine on this show for the first time officially. My guy, Evan, a host for Daily Wolves. My guy, how are you doing?
Man, I'm doing good. Always a good day when I get to talk about the Wolves. We just saw each other in Las Vegas, pretty recent. You're rocking the polo there. I like it. Looking fresh over there, man.
No, I appreciate it, man. You're looking fresh. The background is fire. I need to start working on my
Yeah, you
background.
got to work on it. We'll get you on it. We'll get you on soon.
Dude, I'm trying to figure that out. Like I got some things that I've bought to decorate it, but I haven't necessarily put it together where I just like
Yeah,
put it on the wall. So I should have that done in the next week. But you know what? It's good to see you, my guy, looking fresh
good to
as
see you.
well.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, we saw each other in Vegas last week. I think ran into each other a couple times too. You know,
Hmm.
we got to see the Timberwolves Summer League snubbing in
Yep.
person 2 years in a row. The Timberwolves before like the post preliminary stuff, the second straight year undefeated in Summer League, and then they missed the playoffs.
Hmm.
I think that's the world's stupidest thing, Evan.
So dumb, and it goes off the point differential, and it's crazy because Minnesota, I think, had 9.5 points, and the next place ahead of the Timberwolves that made the playoffs, I think they had 10 points. So we literally missed it by half a point, which is absolutely crazy. And you wanted to see obviously this team, how good and exciting they were. You wanted to see them. I'm sure the NBA did too, but I guess it just is what it is. You go 4-0, but I mean, we still got to see a lot of the guys, right? So
Yeah.
I guess where do you want to take it from there?
Yeah, before we go there, I just want to say I'm trying to figure out like the point of a
Mhm.
4-game playoff setup in the summer league because we have constellation games still that day.
Mhm.
Minnesota played this random constellation game with nobody on the team actually playing, and it didn't mean anything. They just
Yep.
earned the right to play an extra meaningless game. By the way, CJ Fulton, he looked good. So he showed little moments that game. So I was happy to see him get 17 minutes that stretch. But
Mhm.
overall, I don't know, man. Why would you have a constellation game when you could have a playoff game, especially when we have all these like 4-0 teams that don't get to participate? I think that's nonsense.
Mm. And it's crazy too because, um, yeah, and it's just that's what summer league's for, right? It's for these teams to come in, for the players that have this upside and this potential to come in and show up, and you saw it with TJ and the new draft pick they had, but Rob Dillingham, those are pretty big names for summer league. So, yeah, surprising that that they're playing in this yeah, like you said, the game it didn't mean anything. Tristan Newton, shout out to Tristan Newton going crazy in that game. There's the guy. But I mean, I guess you don't want to get the guys hurt. And at that point, Minnesota probably just had seen enough. I was surprised the guys were playing as much as they did. I'm wondering that one game that TJ sat, if that maybe if he played, maybe they win by more points, and maybe that is that deciding factor where the Timberwolves would have actually made the playoffs.
I love that you started right there because let's
Uh-huh.
actually. So, the way this episode everybody's going to work is this is not a specific one game summer league recap scenario. It's not recapping the games that I did in post last week. We're kind of, this is the bigger picture. We're looking about what did we learn from summer league from a lot of the main guys as we get into next season. And Evan went straight into it, Terrence Shannon Jr. And
Mhm.
first of all, I do think if Terrence Shannon Jr. plays, they probably are in that playoff run.
Yep.
But I mean, at the end of the day, it's summer league, right? So you don't want with how good he looked. Let's just talk about how good he looked because he deserved that rest day. He was that good. And I mean, he made first team All NBA Summer League. Evan, what was your takeaway from Terrence Shannon?
My takeaway from watching him play in person over there was TJ looked, and I felt the exact way I felt about TJ a year ago when I was in person at NBA Summer League. And that's the first thing I was sitting there is I just thought watching him play is, man, I came to see Rob Dillingham, but this guy is ready. TJ is ready. And I was high on TJ when we took him in the draft because his college career, what he did, probably would have won National Player of the Year, which many people don't know, was amazing in college that year. Had those legal allegations that obviously caused him to fall, not win National Player of the Year as well. Cost him millions of dollars to fall that much in the draft because he was probably a lottery pick. But you're seeing why. And he's a little bit, he's older, right? So he came in at age 23 when the Timberwolves drafted him. This year in NBA Summer League, he's 24. He'll be turning 25 this year. So it's not shocking that a player who's that much older with that much experience, full grown ass man, his body, it's ready, man. He's a big guy in person. You've never seen TJ in person up close or been around him. He is like, you would never know that he's in his second year. He is built. And then just the velocity he plays with, the aggression he plays with. I just love like that no fear factor. He said the second sport, if he could play anything, he would play football. And when he runs down the court, he looks like an NFL running back, just engaging contact. I mean, that's like Adrian Peterson stuff, which many of us are familiar with in Minnesota. But I was just so impressed at his decision making. I thought he had the upside to maybe be somewhat of a playmaker. I didn't think it would be at this level. I think what you saw is Terrence take the step of playmaking. He also took a step as well in his 3-point shot from not really showing it too much at Summer League last year to now showing he spreads the floor. He's worked on his game. There's reports that he took 18,000 3-point shots so far in the summer. He's the first one at the gym. I mean, you're adding a guy who can already slash and get to the rim at will, and now you're adding a 3-point shot threat. You're adding playmaking ability. We're talking about a player who's not just a role player, which I thought he could be last year. I'm talking about an NBA starting level caliber player that could play, in my opinion, in the starting lineup for years to come.
It's hard to disagree with anything that you said because sometimes sometimes in social media or TV, we fans, we get fed a lot of junk sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
And we get too excited about players who don't work out. We're told this fake story. We're told this fake story. And it just, not necessarily saying like people in the media do that a lot, but you when you're on social media enough, you hear it enough. And Shannon just got so much good feedback the last few months. Like not only late last year, he leads that 25-point comeback against OKC. He averages 34 per 36 in the conference final against OKC. A-Rod is going to Stephen A. Smith like, that's one of our pieces, Stephen A. That's one of our future pieces right there. Like, you're hearing this and you're getting like, oh, man, is this the Minnesota team? Like, is this just false hope happening once again? And I think we all wanted to see, like, how real is this? And he was one of the 5 best players at Summer League, bare minimum. I would argue he was top 3.
Easily.
Because, I mean, Filipowski was freaking incredible. Like,
incredible.
Filipowski is another name people got to watch because he was – I think Utah got something there too. But Shannon, how physically imposing he was, like he was in college, he's been that in the NBA. One of my friends texted me and he went, this is like Miles Bridges at shooting guard, but with playmaking feel. And I was like, that is the perfect comp.
Yeah.
Because there isn't a perfect comp for Terrence Shannon Jr., but the physical imposing nature he has, yet the patience. And you mentioned the 3-point shooting. I think he was shooting, if I'm not mistaken, I think his first 3 games, he shot, I think, over 8 a game. I think he shot 38.5% from 3 in Summer League. But he had that one game where he gets double-digit threes. That other game where he's like 5 for 14, which is an insane number. And then he had that like perfect 3-point shooting game last. The jumper, you can see the reps are getting in there. And if he can space the floor like that, if he can pass the ball like that, not only is he somebody I think can be a starting caliber player, but I think the best version of that player can become a legitimate like third option on a high level basketball team. And if he can reach that ceiling, Minnesota hit it out of the park. I'm not saying he's 100% getting there because he's age 25. We want to see more in between stuff, but I think everything you could have wanted from Terrence Shannon this postseason and this Summer League, Minnesota got.
And I think what you were saying was so accurate about people overhyping things, the media overselling things. Us on social media platforms like myself with the Daily Wolves, sometimes we jump on a player and we just amp them all up, even though they're never going to live up to their potential. But with TJ offensively, I was on it last year. I just feel like I wasn't even overselling it. I was just so in on him. I was so sold. Again, when we go the day I'm there, it's NBA Summer League last year, and I talked about it that I went to see Rob, and I was so impressed by TJ. I go out and I run into Jim Pete, Michael Grady, Kyle Tighe, a couple other guys in the organization, and all of us separately had chats basically about, holy crap, did you see what TJ did? Like, Rob looked okay, but holy crap, this TJ kid's going to be really good. And everybody was just, that was the talk. It was all about him. And so when that many people are talking about it, it's real. Like, you know what I mean? These guys do what they do for a living. And then on top of that, you go through this year, he looked so good every time he touched the court this year. The energy he brings is like what Josh Okogie used to give us, the injection, right? And now you're getting it from a guy who's going to inject offensive life too. You know, what does Anthony Edwards struggle with a ton on this team? Sometimes it's being the only guy getting to the rim. And that's what OKC did to him. In the playoffs, you saw a bunch of teams. He was the most blitz player in the NBA this year because no one else can really put pressure on the rim, and they're missing that. Well, TJ gives you that element now, and you're going to see it this season and then the future. And he fits the timeline perfectly because he's going to be in his prime basically when Ant's in his prime as well. They're the same age pretty much, right? So it's actually crazy because TJ is older than Anthony Edwards. Fun fact for those listening right now. But I just think with this kid is he has what I liked what you said about him being potentially that third option. I think he will be the third option. I think he's better already than Jaden McDaniels on the offensive end. That might be a hot take. That might be blown out of proportion. People might clip this, but I just think right now I would take him over Jaden for an offensive option, and he just fits the team perfect, man.
I keep saying that OKC series, Minnesota was so missing just in a physically imposing rim attacker.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Conley, that series averaged 4
Oh.
points on below 25% shooting. You can't have that. And I see why people were heartbroken when Nickeil Alexander-Walker left because, of course, he is homegrown in a lot of ways. He almost fell out of the league, and then he comes to Minnesota, and he grows into this really high-level role player who you can kind of ask to do anything, and he showed up. And when I say this, I'm not saying this as a shot at Nickeil Alexander-Walker, but if I have a concern about the Minnesota Timberwolves next year, it isn't because Nickeil Alexander-Walker left, because Minnesota has enough high-level wing defenders. I'm not necessarily worried about that. But Minnesota didn't have anybody who could dribble. They didn't have anybody who you can say, okay, Ant, Randall, they're not getting anything going. Let's just get somebody who you know is going to get to the rim. And Terrence Shannon, not only do I think he can do that, I think he can do that efficiently. Not because he's a great athlete, but because if all hell breaks loose, I think Terrence Shannon is a very good connective decision maker. And I thought we saw glimpses of that this summer league. I think we saw glimpses of that his rookie year. And when we drafted Terrence Shannon, I liked the pick, but I wasn't running around screaming to the rooftops that Minnesota got a guy. I just okay, great college player. Some questions on how his role scales in the NBA. We'll see if the game is a little too fast for him. Those are real questions. But so far, in a very limited sample size, which is somehow really impressive, he's answering those about as well as he possibly could in the situation he's given. So I think when you look at this Timberwolves team next year, he has a ton of pressure on him because I think we all see somebody who should average double digits next year.
Yep.
Easily.
Yeah.
If he gets 17 minutes, he should get 10 points a game. If he gets 22 minutes a game, I think he can get 13 a game. I believe that much into the offensive firepower as soon as next year. And I don't want to put too much expectations on a year two player, but this is also a guy theoretically entering a prime age. So I don't think that's too much to ask either. And I think the Summer League just verified what we all hoped coming in.
This is something I noticed too from watching him from a year ago as well, guys. His ball handling is significantly improved, in my opinion. And that's something that might be overlooked. I just think at the speed he moved a year ago, it was sometimes he puts his head down, he would go to the rim and he loses control and he just goes out of control, or he turns the ball over, or he plows into a guy and it's an offensive foul. Just little things that he needed to clean up, or guys are all swatting at it. And his handle this year is so tight and it has improved so much that he was able to do things that I couldn't believe and get by guys in such tight spaces. And in person, I would notice 4 or 5 hands, guys slapping his arms, no call fouls, and he's still able to hold onto the ball, get to the rim, draw a foul at the rim, or finish it. And I just can't believe that a player in year 2 is doing that. Again, this is a player who, had way more experience than most guys coming to the league in college. So it's not crazy that he's doing this in year 2. But I think that's something also is why you're seeing him, perform the way he's doing. And I think I think Dane Moore had posted about it on Twitter at one point and said the kind of summer league performance he's doing and the numbers he's putting up, if he was younger and he was kind of like a lottery pick, and he just had come out of the draft as a younger player, you'd be talking about this is like a all-star future kind of. These are the guys they talk about when they performances like this, like all-stars have it. Those are the kind of players that develop into star level players. We're not saying that TJ is going to do that, but at this point, would I be shocked if he made the team one time in his life, an all-star team? No. Probably won't happen. That's probably way out of the park, but I just can't believe this guy is still. He's a starter level player. Like he's going to be, I really do believe he's going to eventually force himself into the lineup and he's going to be in the starting lineup. Probably, maybe not this season, but I think those conversations are going to be had in the future. And I like the point you brought up about losing Nikhil and Jalen Clark's still here, TJ's still here. So they could, you were hoping that the two of them together could kind of equal and give you enough of what Nikhil's done. Well, what TJ's shown you in summer league is you're not going to be missing Nickeil Alexander-Walker too much, because this guy can do what Nikhil could do. Maybe not everything, but a lot of it. And he sure is a hell of a lot better of an offensive talent as well. And he can hold his own on the defensive end.
Totally. And, I find the age thing funny because I hear what Dane was saying in regard to if you just put these stats next to a 21-year-old and you consider the context, future all-star. I mean, as much as we don't want to admit it, the age thing really matters.
It really does.
There are still questions like, okay, you are a 24-year-old playing against a lot of 20-year-olds or lower level 24-year-olds trying to just scratch in the league. So there is that component to consider, and I don't want to completely ignore that. But when I see Terrence Shannon, if he turned into an all-star, I would be very pleasantly happy, slightly pleasantly surprised. But I think if Terrence Shannon Jr. becomes like the Christian Brown of the Minnesota Timberwolves, I think that would be a fantastic outcome, because I don't see Brown as an all-star, but he's also one of those guys who is an absolute force in transition, legitimately one of the best transition players in the league. And he has that feel, that connectivity to his game, and an edge that really stands out. And I will say this, Terrence Shannon is more physically imposing than Christian Brown. So if he's a slightly better offensive version of Brown, that's not impossible. That would be an incredible outcome.
It's going to happen.
I think he's one of the most underrated players in the league, Christian Brown. So if he's that great. And you mentioned, I mean, we'll get into a deeper conversation about this probably later in the episode after we talk about Rob Dillingham. But I made the case the other week about Terrence Shannon starting, and that was the point. OKC, they won the title with Shea at point guard. And I'm not saying Ant is the playmaker Shea is based on what we've seen. But at Ant's age, you have to project a little bit that the playmaking gets a little better. The maturity gets a little better. Kid Anthony Edwards become a heliocentric 32 usage guy? I think so. And if Terrence Shannon Jr. is as good of a connective passer you and I think he can be, why can't he start if the other options on your team literally can't get to the rim? Or, Rob Dillingham, who we'll talk about in a second, you're not fully confident he's ready yet. And I actually think that's a good way to transition to Rob Dillingham, because I was a little worried early. I'm not going to lie, Evan. A little bit worried. Not like terrified. If he had a bad summer league, I wouldn't, run around with my head falling off and say he's done for. Minnesota whiffed on the pick. I wouldn't have done that, but it would have definitely been something that would put a little bit of butterflies in my belly going into the season. But I thought he took steps forward every single game in the Summer League. And I think that last game he played against the Phoenix Suns, a team that we just keep beating in every facet, even in
Yep.
trade negotiations, I thought he showed great signs. I want to hear what you think.
Yeah, I was very worried about Rob Dillingham before we went into summer league, and I know people again are always like, "You gave up on a." Nobody gave up on Rob Dillingham. We didn't give up on him with the Daily Wolves. He's not been given up on, but I think we're concerned. I think the turnovers were a very, very, very concerning factor with Rob. And what we saw in the first, game or so is the turnovers were a problem. And then he started playing better towards the end of summer league. And like you said, he has that game 4 where he just absolutely explodes. 23 points, like 7 assists or something to end the game. Just incredible. And he won the game by himself. If you go rewatch that game, I can tell you what, the Minnesota Timberwolves would not have won that game without his performance. He was the MVP. I thought he was the best player on both sides of the ball. He was absolutely incredible. And the flashes and what he gave you. And the crazy part is about everything, he did most of his damage in the last 2 quarters of the game. And I think that showing, he had 11 points at halftime, ends with 23. Think about that. Most of his points, they came in the third quarter. He just erupted out of control. And I think that is the Rob Dillingham that the Timberwolves hoped they were getting. And I think he looked, a lot of times Rob looks like we all see him. He's got the nickname Shifty for a reason. And he's a super agile, shifty out there. He's doing all these tricks. And I think the way he moves sometimes, he gets too fancy with it and he turns it over because he's too fancy with it. Dances a little bit too much. Things are he moves too fast for himself sometimes and it surprises him. And I think what I saw in the second half is him play at the speed that he could play at. The game looked like it slowed down to him for a few quarters, and he was just playing at this level where he was the only one in that realm, and he was controlling everything. He was assisting, and they were amazing passes into tight windows. If you go watch it, some of the passes are NBA. They're like not just NBA passes. Those are point guard passes that are made by all-star caliber players. Not just anybody makes it. So what it showed me is this guy has the star upside, and you see it right there. And that's what the Wolves see. That's why he was the 8th pick. It's why he was considered the second best guard coming out of the NBA draft that year. He flashed, and he looked in that game like an absolute all-star and looked like somebody in the future that if he puts that together consistency, because I think that is what Rob's missing, is that consistent play. But he can do that even at an average level. Minnesota is sitting really good because that's a starting level point guard right there.
I'm going to say something super ironic, I think, for both media perception and just fans who've watched the team. Because Anthony Edwards is the face of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Before Anthony Edwards, the Timberwolves were the butt of every joke, which is why this show is Hall of Fame mode fandom, because this fan base has gone through a lot of nonsense during multiple iterations. But the Minnesota Timberwolves today are very, very, very mature, very stable, very
100%.
meats and potatoes. Chris Finch has just pounded that culture into the Minnesota Timberwolves. And people wonder why Rob Dillingham didn't play on the, I suppose, stable Minnesota Timberwolves now. Is that reason what you mentioned? His game isn't very grounded yet. Rob Dillingham, you see the flashes, right? You see the magic. He went 8th overall as a 170-pound guard because he has superpowers, plain and simple. And you see those superpowers. But like you mentioned, the game just hasn't been set. He doesn't have that clear just balance yet between how to leverage your playmaking to get your scoring. He doesn't control a game yet. And that was the number one thing I was looking for when Summer League began. how does Rob Dillingham control the game? Because when he first came into the scene earlier in the year, when they played Houston, Boston, he had that run. He was really impressive.
Yeah, Utah.
Yep, that Utah game. And then after that, it just fell off when the team got healthier and the margin for error was smaller for him. And you didn't see that control. You didn't see that balance. And I was really worried about that because first game, he's getting buckets and he's making fun reads, right? He can push the pace. He has a lot of just velocity and just variety with the angles and English he can put on the ball. And it looks amazing when it works. But when it doesn't work, it looks awful. And when you mix it all together, it hasn't been super, meats and potatoes yet, which is what you need to be. It's why Mike Conley can start in the conference finals and shoot 21% in the conference finals.
Yeah.
As much as I love Mike Conley, the reason why he works on the Timberwolves and why the analytics love Mike Conley, despite, the regression he had last year, is the fact that he's a meats and potatoes point guard. He just simply just sets up the table. He makes sure everybody gets to their spots and he's moving and he can hit an open three. That's still the reality. Rob Dillingham, the last couple of games, I saw somebody who took steps toward that point guard who can both be dynamic, flashy, both is not the right word, who can all in one be that dynamic, flashy guard, but also control the game. We saw steps toward that games too. I thought he really passed the ball well game 3, made Shannon look good a lot of times, made other players, he made Leonard Miller look good a lot. But then that last game was incredible because he had all the pressure on him. No Terrence Shannon. And he's getting swarmed by 6'8" Ryan Dunn with a Kamal Malwatch paying extra attention to him. And anytime he escaped a pick and roll, you had multiple long arms just roaming like 7'5". Rasheer Fleming, who half the fan base wanted, he had a lot of tough looks. And he struggled that first half scoring the ball. But I was still thinking he's struggling, but he's making the right read almost every time. Then that second half happens. They put Tristan Newton next to him, and I think that's a great sign because I think he's better next to a high-level ball handler. And when Tristan Newton becomes Anthony Edwards, that can be exciting. But he just completely controlled the game. He attacked. He was fearless. He was able to finally put together, I can get to the rim whenever I want. If they collapse, I can move the ball. If I need to hit a tough jumper late in the game, I can. He hit that step back 3. He just controlled the game, and he led that comeback. And that is the Rob Dillingham Minnesota needs. The guy who, number one, can set the table. When he's not scoring, it's okay. Keep setting the table. And then once the pressure kind of relieves itself and he needs to be Rob Dillingham, the flashy, just combo-ish guard, he can do that. I think that Suns game was so important because we didn't see Rob Dillingham really take over the Summer League. And then he had that chance to take over, and he did it without the playmaking, just losing its touch. And I think that's the number one thing. The Timberwolves don't have Malcolm Brogdon right now. They don't have, Damian Lillard, or they don't have a clear starting point guard. If Rob Dillingham's going to be that starting point guard, he needs to have that little Mike Conley in him and still control the game late. And I think that Suns game was very much a step in the right direction.
If he does that and he becomes a high-level player and plays at a level that we think he can achieve, and we now know what TJ is going to be. I mean, look, you're looking at a team who was in the NBA Finals last year. Just hands down, the Timberwolves are going to go to the finals. And that sounds like it's crazy, but that team is so good that if you add 2 players that dynamically can get to the rim and play make at that high of a level, there it is, man. That's kind of some of the things they were missing. I do think, one thing I will say too was awesome about Rob, and we got to give him a shout out as well, is the defensive effort is just incredible. I mean, he is trying his ass off on the defensive end all summer league, and it was even better this time than it was in the regular season, and significantly better than a year ago in summer league. And I noticed it. Also, I will add this too. Rob Dillingham looks, as he should, he looks way thicker, way more muscle, way built up. I mean, you interviewed him, you were up close, but he just looks significantly bigger and bulkier, which he's going to need if he wants to develop into an average defender. But I think the best part about Rob is certain players, they don't make it. We just watched Josh Minot exit the team. And one of the things that's different between the two is I believe there's a difference in the maturity. There's a difference. The way they approach things. Rob's work ethic is incredible, and you hear about it from anybody I've talked to. Rob has spent so many hours in the gym all year correcting his shot. His form looks significantly better in person than it did last year. He spent the whole season changing his jumper and working on it, working on things with the coaches. And you can really just see how everything and how much Rob cares. He really, really wants to play. He wants to be out there hooping all the time. He cares so much. He's always in the gym. He's kind of a gym rat, and he's doing all those things. And he's just, his interviews, the way he is with the media, how mature he is. His teammates love him. And I think you saw that natural connection in those games with the guy who might be playing alongside of him in the future. And that's the Timberwolves drafted in Joan Beringer.
Yeah, and great mention, by the way, because we will transition to him soon. And I just want to say with Rob Dillingham,
yeah,
there's so much pressure on both Shannon and Dillingham next year. Because in the ideal world, both of them are replacing 2 top 6 guys in the rotation. Mike Conley, ideally, Rob Dillingham can surpass Mike Conley next year. Terrence Shannon Jr., you hope he surpasses Nikhil, who just signed a $60+ million contract. You're hoping these two can make up for that ground and then some, and those two have a skill set that should add to this team what those two lack, because Nikhil and Conley at this point, they struggle creating under pressure. That should be Dillingham and Shannon's strength. When defenses get up on you, they have the creation chops to do something about that, and that's what the Timberwolves lacked last year. And we've talked about the point guard position so much. I know half of my shows have been about the point guard position, but they haven't added a point guard right now. They haven't added a Malcolm Brogdon. They didn't add a Dennis Schroeder. They didn't add Damian Lillard. They didn't add a free agent guard. So you have Mike Conley, Rob Dillingham, and I've made the case for Terrence Shannon starting because we don't have a point guard. So Rob Dillingham, if Minnesota wants to go far, he needs to be a part of it. If Terrence Shannon is a part of it, Minnesota will go far. Minnesota needs those two to take a big step, which is a lot to ask for year 2 players, but Minnesota's counting on that, and actions speak louder than words. Their silence spoke everything. They brought everybody back, and the only difference in the rotation is likely getting the 2024 draft class guys in. So I think it's good that we've had net positive takeaways from Summer League, because they need those two to show up. If they don't show up, the West is so good. That could be the difference between the 3rd seed and the 9th seed in the Western Conference. So it's just incredible how much pressure is on those two to take a leap next year.
100%. I think the last thing I want to say about Dillingham is just super quick here. He's got to finish better at the rim. He's god awful finishing at the rim. That's something that I thought he did decent when he was in Kentucky. It was horrible last year. He has to, again, take the turnovers, get that under control. You just can't have turnovers, and you got to finish at the rim because he's so good at breaking down defenses and getting there. That's where he's got to improve. Those are key things if he wants to, stick and be, eventually the starting point guard for your Wolves.
And to finish the the Rob Dillingham conversation, I am not 100% of Rob Dillingham is ready next year. I'm not ready. That
I'm not sold on it either right now.
There are good signs, but Dillingham started slow and he ended pretty good. He didn't take over the Summer League like Ron Holland or Kyle Filipowski did. So there's still questions there. Positive signs at the end, but there's a lot to learn. I mean, I wanted to see a middle game there. I wanted to see a floater. Didn't see that. I love the way he finished that last game attacking 7'2" Kamal Malwatch, but there's still a lot of questions. I have more questions about Shannon than Dillingham right now, or less questions about Shannon than Dillingham. So it's just a matter of how much does Dillingham take advantage of these last 6-7 weeks, I think, until training camp, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 8 weeks, something like that. But it'll be interesting. And now we can talk about the last part of the show a little quicker, but Joan Beringer was an amazing first game. Holy guacamole. That was one of the 5 best rookie performances all Summer League. What did you think about just his presence as we evolved from the emotional high of game 1?
I mean, I was as surprised as anybody probably watching that game. And I'm sure most fans, I'm sure there's a couple out there that claim they knew that he was going to be this good, but I'm pretty sure most people, including media, most people just, we had no idea what this kid was really capable of. And you saw those flashes when he got drafted. You look up his highlights, right? Everyone runs to their computer, but everyone looks kind of good when they're shooting in an open gym or they're playing against guys over in Europe. And you just never know with those European players. You really don't until they come over and they play against the players in the US that are extremely talented. And you got to remember, even the G League and the NBA would probably go over and beat up on a lot of the European teams. They're incredible. So the talent level is just so high. He's only 18 years old. So you're questioning, is his body ready? How is he going to be? He's going to probably need to put on more muscle. How is it going to take a while? And what I saw in game one, I still couldn't believe it. I just 7 blocks. I mean, holy crap. And then on top of that, his poise in the defensive end was, it was the same. The only thing I can compare it to is seeing TJ play the other year in his game one. I was like, oh my God, he's ready. And that's how I felt about Berenger's defensive game. I can't say he's ready day one with his whole game, but that was something I knew. I was like, wow, this is an elite defensive level. It's transitioned on the court. I'm watching it right now. On top of that, this is going to transition into the NBA, and I won't have to worry about it. This kid's amazing. He's an elite defender already against these players, and that's just something you don't typically see. The way he moves his feet from that soccer background, that's probably why he moves that way. It's incredible to see him move his hips. He could dang near play a quarterback in the NFL the way he moves his hips, shuffles his feet. And I just can't believe someone at his size has that ability to do what he's doing. And on top of that, he's so explosive. I think I did not realize his athleticism was that high. I mean, he has that Giannis. That's why people bring it up, Giannis, is because he has that Giannis Antetokounmpo kind of athleticism. You see, he has that Tyson Chandler. I love that comparison that you had brought up with Tyson Chandler. I think that's like a phenomenal comparison because for those who are younger and might not have seen Tyson Chandler play, he was an absolute dominant big in the league. Not too much of a shooter, but just an absolute dominant athletic freak, a force, and was one of the key guys. Actually played on Team USA with the Dream Team back in the day when LeBron was younger and all those guys, and D Wade and Kobe. So I can tell you, Tyson Chandler was quite the monster, quite the beast. And I think what you're seeing is a player who kind of is like this ultra athletic, souped up version of what Gobert, kind of what you want Gobert to be. And that's what you're seeing with him, is just this defender. He can cover, I think, every position except for maybe the point guard right now. But I mean, the way he moves, some of his recoveries, good Lord. I mean, he has this incredible upside where he could be like defend 1 through 5. And I can't believe I'm saying that but I do genuinely see it. I think it's that high of a ceiling on defensive end. I think he's going to win some kind of an award in his career. I think the Timberwolves hit a big time pick there. It was no joke. I cannot believe it. I'm still so shocked about it today. And just the way the chemistry with TJ and all those guys who played at Summer League with them, with Rob, it was just there. Like, you could tell they love playing with them. They love running the floor. The kid, he runs the floor so damn hard. And that's something the Wolves have been missing. And his hands are fantastic. Let's go. We need a round of applause because his hands are fantastic, man. Something we've been missing out. This guy's going to catch anything that they throw at him. And his form didn't look that bad either. I thought I saw him take a couple of free throws. There's something there.
By the way, that Suns game, he took, I think, 2 jumpers. Neither of them were that close, but it was cool that he took them.
Yeah.
And I think there's a couple of things I'll always stand by. And people think I'm joking when I say Tim Connolly could probably burn my house down. And I would assume that he just anticipated the real estate pricing going way down, so he's just protecting me.
Yep.
I don't know. Tim Connolly, in my heart, could probably do no wrong, or I would find a reason to justify it. But I don't know how you leave this summer league and not think Minnesota had a really good pick at 17. They had a really good pick. And it's a continuation of what Tim Connolly does as a draft guy. He just knows how to draft really good players on the margins. Beringer, if some of you guys don't know, was supposed to go in that 12 to 14 range on draft night.
Mm-hmm.
And he slipped to 17, really. I'm not sure exactly why. There was some weird stuff at like 12, like a Shangu fell to 12 in
Yeah, I think it was all
Chicago.
those weird trades, and
The
and it was
Pelicans
all,
trade.
and
Yeah.
some of the like shocking picks too that I just think it kind of got. But yeah, I think that trade kind of fumbled him down.
He probably, I don't know this. I'm not reporting this. So people don't aggregate this. But I would have probably guessed he would have gone 13 if the Atlanta Hawks stayed there. That would be my guess. I mean, they took a French player the year before, and that's just like the perfect archetype next to Trae Young, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that would have been my guess on who they would have taken. So when that trade happened, likely that helped him get to Minnesota. But that first game, it was so perfect to me that I spent the rest of the summer league just looking for what's wrong. And I know that's a horrible way to talk about it, but I think he earned
I
that.
agree.
And look, I'll say it like this. I'm not sure if he's ready to just walk in and contribute right away. I thought the foul trouble went up a little bit throughout summer league. He had a lot of fouls that Suns game, and the rebounding, the boxing out, he has a long way to go there. There's some things, but when you're talking about drafting an 18-year-old prospect who you're throwing into a situation, I think Beringer is such a fantastic pick because Minnesota has everything they need to develop this kid to maximize his potential, from the Rudy Gobert mentorship to just the reputation Minnesota is developing as an organization that develops young talent. And yep, 80% of the history of the franchise, that's not true at all. He's just really exciting because, like you mentioned, is he there all the way yet? Is he that skilled? No. Is he a good rebounder yet? No. But he's an A-level athlete, high-level hands, A-level motor, and
Mm-hmm.
getting to
Mm-hmm.
know these kids after you draft them, he's very much a business-minded player. He comes in just monotone, stoic, here to do his job. And that's a European culture that I really love being integrated to the NBA because a lot of international players are bringing that over to the NBA, and he's a continuation of that. He provides a maturity that is beyond an 18-year-old. And
Mm-hmm.
even when he had some moments where he lost his positioning, boxing out, I'm like, I don't care. He's going to be boxing out Rudy Gobert for a year. I think he's going to figure that out. But I think all the signs that of what he can grow into were all very much shown. And he was one of the 10 best rookies in Summer League. And I think for a kid who was the third youngest in the draft, that was just fantastic.
And what better player to really learn from than Rudy Gobert, a guy who you've looked up to for years, probably in one of the biggest athletes in France, and he got to grow up watching him. He probably gets has that relationship with them, with the team. Someone who speaks French as well. His English isn't perfect yet, so I think that's going to help him so much to integrate. And Gobert can just take him under his wing. He's already such an elite defender, and then you're taking a 4-time defensive player of the year, arguably one of the greatest defensive players ever to play basketball, literally ever in NBA. And he's going to be teaching him and telling him, this is where you got to go. This is where this is the position I'd be in. This is how I would handle this. And by the way, there's another guy who's pretty tall as well, who's about 6'9", 6'10", and Jaden McDaniels, who's an all NBA talent as well, who he's going to be around and he's going to learn from as well. So, I mean, he's being put in the perfect environment with these guys. And I think he just one of those things where the Wolves just got lucky. I thought he was going to be taken higher as well. I wasn't completely sold on him because I was like, I don't even know who this guy really is. And I think, John Krasinski pointed it out amazing on his podcast that, which is a great listen for those who want to go back and listen. Shout out to John Krasinski. But he had pointed out how like he's been doing the business for, 20 years, 20 something years now. And he can really tell by now if like coaches really like a player and it's for real. They're not just kind of saying, oh yeah, we like him. And then they're not actually that enamored by him. He can tell when there's like a twinkle in their eye. And he said Beringer that twinkles in their eye. And when he sees that, he knows like a player has something really special and they think the world of him. In fact, he pointed out on his podcast that they tried to trade up That's how highly they thought of this kid. They tried to move up to go get him, and they didn't think they were going to get him. And then the weird trade happened, and they kind of fell, and they were going bananas. They were celebrating. It was, I mean, they were just going crazy, and they talked about how they wanted to get like this last minute workout in with Joan Beringer, and they weren't like, they just wanted to kind of see something, but they weren't like completely 100% sold. And I think it was like a week before the draft, they got him into Chicago, and they worked out with them in a high school gym. And it was like this undercover, like nobody knew, like wasn't reported. They wanted to keep it very secretive, and they came out of it, and they were just like, that was one of the best workouts like we've ever seen. We have to do whatever we can do on draft day to get this kid. That's how highly the Timberwolves think of this guy. And I've watched enough basketball too, just from the years and growing up. And I'm not saying it's like 100%, but I feel like at this point, I feel like I can kind of tell when a player is like not like there's an NBA skill and they're not a bust. And that's what I really do believe and I see in this kid. Is I'm not saying he's a star. I'm not saying it's like guaranteeing he's a star. I'm just seeing like somebody who's like, he's going to be an NBA player. And that's hard to hit on in the draft at 17. Once you get later out of the lottery, it's just tough. You're hoping you can hit on anything, just a role player at 17. This guy looks like he has the potential to not only just be a role player. I think you're hitting this guy looks like he's going to be a starting level player in the future. I mean, he's just incredible. His upside's amazing, and he's barely been playing basketball, but he's been playing 4 years. So I'm all in on him. I think he's going to be phenomenal. He gets to sit right now. He won't play this year, and you'll barely see him. Maybe sometimes in garbage time or if there's injuries. But I think that's honestly really good for him. Just take the time, sit, play in the G League. Learn under great mentorship under some of the really good bigs in Julius Randle, Naz Reid, Rudy Gobert, and the development staff here. I think they nailed one.
I can't disagree. And I just want to make the point, everybody, we're not trying to blow smoke and just give you guys like everything's all sunshine and rainbows. But when a summer league team goes 4-0, it's really hard not to, especially with what we've seen from a team that is as successful in a 2-year stretch as it's ever been. And I can't disagree with you on Beringer. I mean, I'll go this far. I think of all the young players outside of Ant, Jada, Nas, if you consider them that group, I feel better about Beringer than any other young player on the team long term. That's how excited I am about this kid because he fits the identity of the team like a glove. He has the tools. I mean, you can make the case that outside of like Wemby the last couple of years, there isn't a more physically freaky center. And he's raw. He's raw, but the development curve for where he started in 2021 is fantastic. And he walked on an NBA Summer League court and he belonged. And we saw the flaws that he's going to need to grow into, but we're seeing a player who has top 1% traits, who clearly has the intangibles to make the team excited, the proof of concept of his development curve over the last couple of years, and just a grounded maturity that you don't get from a lot of young players. He has all of that. And there's not the same pressure on him as Shannon and Dillingham next season. But I still think, even though I just said I'm not sure you can just have him as a staple rotation player, if Rudy Gobert or Julius Randle miss a game, my first thought is, man, I'd love to see Beringer in there. And I think he's earned that. And I just it's hard to disagree. I think there's a very real possibility they nailed the pick.
And he's just, I can't believe it. Like I'm saying this again too. Again, I really do believe if there was an injury, he could come in and he could fill in. If they miss a couple games, 2-3 games, or even a game, he could come in and play, because I think what we saw in Summer League, he's ready right now to play defense in the NBA. This is going to translate in the NBA. He might not be at that same level where he's getting 7 blocks, but I do not think he's going to be a liability on that end. And if you just tell him, hey, go in, run the floor hard, put pressure on the rim, stay in the dunker spot, don't turn it over, and on top of that, go play elite defense. That's insane for a player, like you said, who's so raw. He's only 18, third youngest player in the draft, has been playing basketball for a little over 3 years. And I think one thing, too, that's so insane about him is his basketball awareness and IQ level was so high that I just couldn't believe it in Summer League, too. I mean, the way those are things you can't teach. He knows exactly when to cut and when to break. to get those backdoor passes. And if it's just to watch him do it when he doesn't even understand English at a full level, he's playing on the court, guys, with people talking and saying things on a team, and he doesn't even know the language, the native language. He's like, imagine going to a different country, not knowing what people are saying around you, or not even half the things, maybe half the things. They're calling out plays, X's and O's. The coaches are telling you things. You don't even know what's going on half the time, but your basketball IQ, just what you believe in, you learn, and how hard you work, he was able to make that much of an impact. What happens when he starts to learn English, understand everything, obtain everything, ease into America, get comfortable, for God's sakes, living in Minneapolis in the United States? Probably a little bit different than France.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, those things are so overlooked that it's just, there's just such a high ceiling with this kind of a kid. And the crazy part is, there's that rumor out there that the KD trade had the 17th pick in it if we traded it, and like maybe like Terrence Shannon Jr. I'm not saying that's actually, it was like Rudy, Dante, and then like the 17th pick and Terrence Shannon Jr. I don't know if that's 100% true, but let's just say it's true for this example. Imagine if the Wolves had moved for that, like the way, and then we didn't know TJ was going to be. I mean, I had confidence he was going to be good, but what we saw was even above what I thought. The way that TJ played, now think of him as a trade chip moving forward. How valuable he just became of how he played in summer league. His stock is skyrocketing, right? And then now you nail the 17th pick in the draft from another young player. That just opens so many possibilities, because now you have young trade assets, higher ceilings. You have so many flexibility. That's why they did the whole thing with Cat and re-signing Randall and getting Naz Reid. Is now you have so much flexibility. You have exactly what you need in case you ever do want to. You have anything you need right now to go dangle and go get a star in the future if they're nailing things like this.
And I wait, no, because I was told after the Rudy Gobert trade, they would have no more assets ever again in the Anthony Edwards window. So there's no way that can
No
possibly
future too. We traded
no
away all our young
future.
future.
What? No. Minnesota screwed up that trade. It's dude, it's hard not to be excited.
Yeah.
Tim Connolly has done a fantastic job with asset management. Even the Cat trade, a lot of people questioned it, but with where the CBA is right now, instead of having 2 to 3 supermax players, you have 1 supermax player and 4 guys in that like $25 to $35 million range, which is a highly tradable contract in the modern landscape of the NBA. So there's a lot to be excited about. And I think the best way to close the show out, now that we got the, Beringer Kool-Aid, all complete, let's do a brief rundown. What were your other takeaways from players around Summer League? Leonard Miller, Zikarsky, etc.
Zikarsky definitely does not look ready at all, which we could expect. He's more raw than Beringer coming in, which again, we expected. That's what we heard. And you saw it on the court. He looked like in person, and things that you don't see in between plays. Hopefully he's not watching this and his parents aren't, because his parents were amazing. They were super nice people, by the way. And I really hope he has so much like potential. He's so raw. First of all, he's huge, guys, in person. I mean, he's
massive.
7'3", third largest player in the NBA behind Victor Wembanyama and Zach Edey. But he looked gassed, and they probably didn't show it on TV as much when it was off him, but he was just huffing and puffing, and everyone around him was fine running around. Everybody's conditioning seemed fine. He just looked like he couldn't keep up. And I think he really got to look at, welcome to the big leagues. It's a little bit more competitive. Everyone's significantly faster over here, significantly stronger, and you're seeing these elite athletes all around you. And I think you don't always have that overseas. And I think his head was spinning, and he was just like, oh my God, the game is going so fast. And the conditioning, I think that's what I noticed about Zikarsky the most. With Leonard Miller, I think, I don't know. I just don't see that there's really like a spot for Leonard Miller, like moving forward after the way that Beringer played and how TJ played and Rob played and Jalen played, and now it's just like Lenny's such a fun kid. He's got these flashes of something really, really fun and amazing. I think what you kind of see is, again, there's inconsistency there. And again, I just don't see the defensive. I'm waiting for Lenny to put it together. He just doesn't. And then the defense for him needs a lot of work. And I just think at this point, he's probably going to end up just like Josh Minot, where he's eventually going to just be like, well, I'm not getting minutes here. I'm going to go play for a different team. Garza left as well. And I think Lenny is, unfortunately, just is what it is. I just think at this point, he's been in the league enough. I just haven't seen enough from Leonard Miller.
On both fronts, it's hard not to disagree fully. I would say for Miller, the first 2 games were really bad for me. I thought his 20-point game 1, felt really empty.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really think he was impacting the game really at all in that 20-point game. He wasn't enforcing the glass. He wasn't scoring loud. He wasn't, making a ton of great defensive reads. There were multiple turnovers between he and Rob Dillingham, where I thought it was more Leonard Miller's fault because he wasn't rolling sharp at all. He would just set screens and kind of float. And the next game, he had 6 points. I thought he did end strong, though. I would say I thought the defense got better late. He did become a primary player, but the same question for Leonard Miller remains. If Leonard Miller isn't a primary scorer, if he's not one of your top 2 to 3 options, what value does he bring to an NBA court?
Mm-hmm.
I do like what he did as a defender the last couple games, and I thought he played strong overall, but he didn't really answer any questions for me. So with, like you said, Beringer and his growth and how much they've invested in him, he might have stepped back another spot in the front court rotation, which I think is concerning for him. Maybe he still plays. Maybe Minnesota, kind of like Minot, they play him anyway. They see what he could be worth as an asset toward the deadline. Because I didn't think there was really any justification to play Minot from what I saw last year.
Mm-hmm.
So my speculative theory, this is not a report, I always thought it felt like they're trying to get a good trade out of him because he wasn't really bringing anything to the court, yet he kept getting the opportunity. That's just my partial theory to why he played. But I'm not sure if they'll do the same for Miller or if they are excited if he plays. I don't know the answers, but nothing really got answered for me. The offense was always really good in Summer League, and he didn't take this massive Kyle Filipowski Summer League leap. And you also add to the Zikarsky part of it, I thought the game was too fast for him. I thought, number one, the physicality.
Yeah.
He's an upright athlete, and he's not very strong yet. And his torso is really high. So the physicality in the Summer League, you could tell it just wasn't there. I don't think athletically he's there in the NBA yet to be, a player. So he's got a long way to go. I think the fact that he went, 45 is still a fair range. And I mean, there's some really good upside stuff to him with how big he is. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't expect to see Zikarsky anytime soon. And before we end the show, speaking of 7'3", have you seen that WNBA player prospect from China who's projected to go 2-27?
Yeah, I have seen her. She's no one can handle her. No one can guard her. Zikarsky's huge too. So people will see him if he's ever on the bench or standing up. God, he is big. You can't. That's something that still is exciting because if he can kind of hit or just be a backup big, that'd be amazing. But I don't know. Zikarsky's got just so much. I don't know. I don't know if he's ever gonna. I don't know if he's ever gonna get there. That's kind of how I felt watching him, and it's hard. You can't say that people. I know you can't, but it was really tough because I'm just like, oh man, he just looks. He looks way too like. I don't know if athletically and how slow he is. I don't know if he'll ever truly get there. That's really concerning. Really, really concerning.
He's clearly got a long way to go. He was at one point a projected pretty high pick, but like you mentioned, last year it felt like the leap they were hoping he would take, adapting to the physicality of the NBL. It didn't happen, and it hasn't happened yet. And he's also super young. He's 18 years old.
Oh, yeah.
So a kid that young, that tall, there's always does the
Awkwardness
coordination.
too. Yeah.
does that catch
Gotta give
up?
it
And
some
I think
time.
if it does, there's a player there because positively speaking, I think he's got good touch for his size. And we've seen the workouts where he can hit a
Yeah.
three,
Yeah,
but
decent shot.
he can roll. He's got that little floater he can do. I think the free throw looks pretty good. I think the jumper looks good. It's going to be a question of can he grow into that body quick enough and become strong enough and quick enough. Two pretty big things to be missing in an NBA rotation right now, but somebody who can just physically adapt to the NBA with his strength and stamina. Two really big questions there between Miller and Zikarsky. But Evan, we were talking about the show being like half an hour, 40 minutes, but it went way beyond that.
That's how it
So, first
goes.
of all, thank you for your time, my guy.
You got it. Always, man.
It's always great listening to you. Daily Wolves is such a fantastic platform, what you and the guys do. It's a really
Appreciate it.
fun, fan oriented environment, too. You guys are incredibly active. It's really hard not to respect that. So, thank you once again. And for everybody, I'm back in town. I was in Las Vegas for, it felt like ages, but it was 10 days. It was really hard to find time because, like, the days were 12, 13 hours of just met the program I was in, but I'm back in town. So a lot of episodes. Now it's kind of the drought of the off season, but we're going to make good use of it. And I just thank you all so much for listening to this show. This is Wilder Wolves, Hall of Fame Mode Fandom.